All right, yes, welcome back, everyone. I, of course, am Scorch13. Very excited to be bringing you this third place match with Zorni back in. Are you ready? Let's get into it.
Oh, I'm ready. I hope the players are. They've had a bit of a break, but I hope they're still warm for this third place match.
We, of course, had the benefit of seeing both of these players earlier in the day. Summer Flame, we saw 3-0 in round one. That Rakoan's deck that we saw looked pretty dominant for Summer Flame is going to get banned right away by Amoeba. Meanwhile, on the other side, Summer Flame banning the red. I'd call it a red combat from the cards that we saw in that brief game, final game against Mastermind.
So, what always is a bit of a worry to me is whenever we see these Rakoan and Caresses decks and a burn deck is not banned. So, the Summer Flame 2.8 cost is not banned, and that might come in handy for him. That might be the game changer, the series changer.
Definitely is one of those counter decks when you can have something like a burn that so well lines up against Corasius, against Rakoans, against Green Yellow Sack, all these decks that want to play a lot of small creatures out onto the board. But we will save that discussion for later on as we start with a blue jump, looks like coming up from Summerflame. Didn't catch anything off the deck selection screen if there's anything else in this list.
I think just the good old blue jump. Maybe he runs Phantasm. Maybe nah. There was would be an idea. Maybe the commander archons, the archons that you could run that. There was once a deck that you just go commander and the archons in general and just go windfalls to proc them.
It's
But
kind of one of
after the nerf,
those
so
mid-range blue decks. We normally see something that is very heavy into blue jump, or we see something that is very heavy into blue sevens, with a lot of big stuff in there. But there are these archetypes that are more of the mid-range, like you're saying, running the Archons, running the Windfall for extra Feria generation, the Mirror Phantasms to buff up your little creatures, and just get a lot of value from trades on the board and start to snowball an advantage.
oh, I'm extremely surprised by Summer Flames land. That he's going back and not just one side. Wow. That is very rare to see that.
Yeah, really slow from Summer Flame. Generally, with a jump, you would expect to accelerate up one side of the board and get that double collection going. Now, that is sometimes dependent on having Colossus in the deck because you want to get those discounts going by collecting off your opponent's wells. With this land start, it almost makes me wonder if Summer Flame is running something a little heavier. Potentially, we see like a Dream Reaver come out later on.
It almost looks like it because, yeah, as you said, you really want to get enemy well collections so you can reduce the Colossus, but doesn't look like it. Ozen as well, so we see he's going for a lot of land, so it almost looks like a Reaver deck.
It now looks much more kind of blue control than we would normally think of with the way that it started with these Battletoads. The Elemental, of course, doesn't really favor one deck or another. It can slide in depending on what the rest of your lineup is. But right now, just kind of stalemate from both players, which I think would favor Amoeba a little more because you want to be spamming a lot of little creatures out onto the board, and you don't really mind if your opponent's letting you do that.
Exactly, but Amoeba is the one that is the first to push one side, and we have the first clash coming, and easy one with the Phantasms.
Phantasms are going to get a lot of value, or I should say, should get a lot of value in this matchup for Summer Flame. You, of course, see those value trades the little 2/2 toads jumping around all over the place, get that big buff to get it up to a 5/5 and take out these recruiters. On the other side, Amoeba now picks up a Cannoneer that can be used to clear off the rest of the 5/2 of the Phantasm here.
Exactly, but there's no, you don't, he could play Tosser, but usually don't want to do that. You kind of want to get a 1-for-1 trade with the frog that spawns from Tosser. And but now there is only like the frog that he could toss, and it's not so good because the frog would just get traded off.
Yeah, this is really interesting right now because it almost looks like Summerflame is playing so slow that Amoeba's not really sure how to react to it with this deck, if that makes sense, because you're looking at a situation where you can throw all these small creatures out on the board, but it doesn't really accomplish anything for you yet. And Amoeba will really be looking to draw into something bigger like the Rakoan Champion, but we can see that there's answers coming out from Summerflame, so it's just kind of an awkward stalemate at this point.
Yeah, I agree. It's really weird. I'm not sure where Summer's deck is going. Not sure. He is confident that he can win late game, but only time will tell.
And we see Summerflame hit that 6 lake point, so goes for a draw off the start there. If it is a Dream Reaver, that's probably the only card in the deck that requires the 7th special land to be played. So instead of going for that now, goes for the draw, and you'll develop that land when you actually need it when you draw that card. And instead, Summerflame just gonna spam more jumping creatures out onto the board.
These bloated toads only cost 1 mana, but when they die, they spawn a 2/2 frog for the opponent. So good value now. Looks like Amoeba is not really happy with his current hand, or I'm not sure what's going on here.
I wonder if it's just saying that was a mistake because he's got these creatures kind of stuck up in the right corner, the Cannoneer and the sacrifice of the Shieldmate that went down onto that side. Could have potentially pushed 1 or 2 of those more onto the left and just had one creature stuck up in the top right to collect in a spot where it's not actually contesting anything. It may be just he's saying it's a mistake because he didn't like his draw, but there we do see the champion, so.
Oh yeah, he's he's gonna be so sad. There's already the Frogify prepared. There's even a second one. And that is one of Amoeba's win condition. And it's just gonna die. So there's creation. Again, I'm not sure what he's gonna use this for. I mean, he can creation the Triton Lord or the Tide Lord. But I'm not sure what he intends creation to use for.
Oh, that's a big draw on Amoeba's side. Ulani allowed to refill the hand if Amoeba's going to go for it. Like you're saying, on Summerflame's side here, potentially the Shojin here, but the Shozin here. But I'm not sure if that really gives you enough because you're just looking, I guess, to use your movement to out control your opponent at this stage.
There is... I mean, Tosser would be nice, but there's absolutely no space.
Yeah, we've mentioned this a couple times as Rakoan matchups have played out, that you have options in hand, but you don't have the board space to play for it. Amoeba here has set up all the necessary lands, still has access to the power wheel, so could still create a land in order to open up a space for one of those creatures to come down, but it still is a position where you have more that you can play, but you're trying to take value trades, and that means that your creatures still are staying alive.
Oh, that Phantasm is really nice in combination with Blow to Toad because you deny the 2/2 frog from the opponent. But he doesn't have the mana right now for it. Again, Summerflame just doesn't make any progress. He seems to be holding on for now. There's just not much going on.
Instead of the line you were thinking of there with the Phantasm, actually does go for trading the Bloated Toad off, but then immediately kills the Toad left behind. Pushes up a little bit here. Shojin actually very interesting. Swallows the Shieldmates, which denies the last words of summoning the Rakoan as well.
This is so cool. That's super cool. I did not know that. And now you have, once a Chosen dies, you get a 2/2, and once the 2/2 dies, you get a 1/1. It's kind of funny.
Yep. Both of which potentially are very good targets for your Mirror Phantasm, depending on the way that trades line up as well. So, really good play coming out there from Summerflame.
So chieftains right now, I'm looking for a way to make use of them, but the way Amoeba has placed his lands, he can't really even play a chieftain in a spot where it matters, or he can't even play one at all. So he might be looking to set up a land for it, but they don't do all that much right now. Okay, now he wait. Okay, Cannoneer, yeah, that makes more sense.
Oh, I like this line. This is really good. So uses the Cannoneer. Oh, I was expecting that to kill the Shieldmate, but Ulani steps up and kills it instead. So, yeah, really nice answer by Amoeba there. Cannoneer clears off Shozen, and then you have the value play from the Frog Tosser. Really nice fighting over the two wells on the left, but Amoeba has that Cannoneer up in the top right that is collecting every single turn. And by denying the bottom right well of Summerflame, you're now setting yourself up to out-collect your opponent over the next few turns.
I feel like Summer should not have lost his Rakoan, his 1/1. He should have phantasmed it, because now he doesn't have anything. He would have had 3 creatures, now he only has 2. It still feels like Chieftain is really nice here. Just really feels like Summer is just playing a losing battle, where it just doesn't make any progress because Rakoans just have almost infinite fuel.
Yeah, and that Chieftain, as you're saying, that's a big value swing. And now Amoeba just going to control the game from here on out, or I should say should control the game from here on out. With that collection, it's just going to be anything that Summerflame puts down probably gets contested as fast as possible. Now, it's not going to be immediately contested this turn, because it actually does have space to get away from anything that Amoeba has currently on the board, but you're looking at potentially just damage rushing into the orb now, and Summerflame just probably doesn't have the time to reestablish.
Exactly. He tried to go for late game. He was sure he would win late game the way he played, and it just backfired. And it doesn't even look like he runs Reaver or something. So I'm not sure what the ultimate win condition of Summer's deck is. It hurts.
And the Gift of Rakoa invested now, so it is a big play coming out, but Frogify still exists. That's going to be a clear. That's going to buy a little bit more time. Just depends if it is enough from Summer Flame's side, because Amoeba does have the pressure here.
There is Chaos. That is some sort of win condition. So now we also know what creation is for in this deck. But unfortunately for him, he just didn't get his Chaos.
Welcome to my realm.
Entire game.
Yeah, that's an interesting with the Emperor in there. There was a time when we were seeing blue decks that were running Forbidden Library and Emperor Chaos, as well as the Engineer, I believe it is, that allows you to trigger production multiple times on the same turn as a kind of combo control-ish deck. But here we're just seeing the Emperor by himself coming down, but I think this is going to be too much pressure coming out from Amoeba's side. Summerflame's just not going to have the time to answer this, I don't think.
Interesting thing to note is this Chieftain is insane against Chaos, I believe, because you always gain one attack back. I think that Raccoon Reveler should never die, because it always gains that one health back from Chieftain.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it matters really right now. Yeah, I just feel like Summer just approached this game in the wrong way, or just expected something different. Thought he would win late game. I'm pretty sure he just expected Kaius to come out sooner, or was hoping for it, and just didn't come out.
Yeah, potentially could have been a card that early on in the game actually allowed him to go for the same lines as he did go for, because that would have established earlier on, got those production charges, and allowed those value trades that he was looking for. In the way that it played out, Amoeba pushed the advantage at the right times, and then got a couple really good value trades once the Chieftain came down. I think being very aware of when exactly that swing turn could be, and then just push the aggression as soon as he had it.
It was well done from Amoeba, and Summer now with the burn deck, which should be insanely favored. It's almost like impossible to win it. This is even burn, I'm not sure. Might
Yeah,
be, yeah.
it's kind of a weird
Teleburn.
one because you're seeing the airbot, which means it could be some kind of like a mech control. Haunted Husk in there. You're looking at being potentially burn, potentially being some more of a control or a fours list. Could just be the flame bursts are in there as an end game. They're not actually, the burn the same way that we think of it. So it still could go in a lot of different directions for Summer Flame.
That's a great format about Crucible. We kind of know what's happening, but also we have no idea what the exact deck is about. It can be so many different things. It could have been burn. It can be, I think there's some sort of teleburn. Yeah, but let's see. Let's wait and see.
Yeah, definitely with the Soul Packs and Haunted there, you would think Storyteller lines up really nicely for that combo play. Force the cards into your opponent's hand. Wondering if it's just a kind of red-yellow burn events type of deck where you're just running every single control spell, and most of those end up limiting what your opponent can do on board, which means the Husk is giving you so much value every single turn.
An important thing to note is Amoeba runs Runin's Guidance, which is not so common, I guess, in these Raccoon decks, but this 5 heal might actually make the difference in this game. It's mechas.
Yeah, we do see the double detonates coming into Summerflame's hand now, so that generally would lean to something more mech heavy. You don't really want to play those when you're only running something like the flyer here, the airbot, just doesn't give you enough value. But we'll see what else comes out from Summerflame. Meanwhile, like you're saying, that Runan's guidance, that's a really good point to make, because certain times when you're playing a burn deck, if that is what we're going to see from Summerflame, you start to build up this game plan in your head of when you can reach the max potential burst that you have. So you start to whittle your opponent down, and then you invest all of your resources into setting up a 2 or maybe 3 turn lethal. And if your opponent can interrupt that with a Runan's guidance, then you've kind of set yourself up in an awkward spot where you've invested all of your Faria to no longer control the board, but to go for that end game burst, and your opponent just completely counters it, and you can't actually end the game anymore.
It's a good draw. Yeah. I would like Amoeba to focus on Machinata. It's, especially for red, like really hard to remove. Hard to remove in general. Just sticks. You can't really, because it's divine, can't really like flame burst it or whatever. So I think, oh, Amoeba's gonna mill an illusionist. And I feel, yeah, just go ahead.
Illusionist isn't like a crucial card in this matchup, I wouldn't think. A lot of times you want to use that in a position where you can get the Dune Drake to get a favorable trade. Now, the charge potentially could be something big to get in and kill the Husk, but as far as actually just transforming something smaller into a 4/4 to take a value trade, doesn't look like it'll really be necessary for Amoeba, so not the worst discard.
Yeah, I think he's fine with that. And in general, I feel like mechas is insanely hard to play against. There are so many threats that you have to play around, like the cannon carrier, who just shoots a creature onto your land, which in turn gets detonated. So, like that, there's a small gap in Amoeba's lines where potentially you could just cannoneer it and get the aggressive land, detonate. Just so many threats from mechas. Or like that. Okay, just decides not to go in between. Just to, oh, he does have Scourge Flame, so it's some sort.
Okay. So initially I was going to say I really that of, but I would have preferred to see Summerflame go for the control, because you have a setup of the airbot, the cannon carrier to position the mech, and then a double detonate and really control the creatures that your opponent has on the board. But now seeing that Scourge Flame draw, that does mean that next turn, Summerflame is going to have 2, 4, 6, 9, 12 damage, if I counted that right. And he may be able to put a cannon carrier in a spot where you can actually get another mech in as well. It's going to be really close. But that is kind of what I was referring to earlier. Summerflame has now set up a position where he thinks he can win over the next turn or two. And Amoeba pushed 12 damage to the orb this turn. So you've kind of got a situation where Summerflame is just hoping that there's going to be enough damage here to end this game before the control on board of Amoeba takes over.
Looking for a way, if there's lethal. I think it's really close, but with the airbot and the can carrier, oh yeah, it's pre-healing, so I don't think there's a way now. But with cannon carrier and the airbot, that would be, with the net detonate, would be 4 damage. Oh, Scourge Flame is 5, so it's a total of 9, and then you only have 2 flame bursts, which only lines up to 15. So it would have been 1 off anyway. So Summer needs to focus on defense, or he could just self-kill himself if he feels like he can't win. With the self-flame burst into soul packs.
Yeah, even if you're able to get another mech in right on the orb, it's still only 17, or if you played both aggressively, it's 19 at most I can see. But I still don't even think your lands line up right in that play.
Hey, right, 17. I didn't count the airbot hitting face. So has to go for defense. But he probably would have had it if Amoeba didn't heal himself. So heads up play from him. Actually, let's say wasting that one on heal, but still going to 20 health just to make sure he doesn't die.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we saw 6 damage invested from the flame bursts there, which would put Amoeba at 4 life right now, which is exactly what was missing. So it would have been exact.
That would have been enough. And we forgot about the husk 1 damage. I
Yeah,
think it would have
exactly.
had 18 damage in total. All
So
of a
it would have been exactly what was necessary. So that's a great point, really coming back to show there that you pointed out earlier how important that guidance was going to be early on in Amoeba's hand. But now Summerflame has stabilized and now is in a potential position to win because he's cleared the big threat. There's no good attack angle coming out from Amoeba's side, and really not a good way to clear on defense either.
It was a really good turn from Summerflame. I mean, he secured his orb, made sure there's no big threat right now, and in turn, he even set up lethal. It's not lethal completely, but it's certainly scary. Oh,
All right, and now we see the all-in from the other side. I mean, saying the biggest creature I can.
no. Uh-oh.
So there
Wow.
is 6 damage right now with the Husk and the Scourge Flame.
Yeah, and you don't really want to play Storyteller. My Merchant is useless. Because... Oh, no, that's not enough.
Cypher's Wrath doesn't do it either. Gonna go for the Storyteller. I don't really see a way that this ever finds anything, though.
I think that was... Summer had a really, really good turn, and then Amoeba just calculating it properly and realizing that there's nothing stopping the 11-11 Tethra. Really
Yeah,
well played.
with the amount of Faria that Summerflame had on that turn, Amoeba just said, you know what? I don't know exactly what you have, but I think it's going to be enough. Went for the preemptive heal, and it paid off huge.
Yeah. And here we see these burn lists, mecha burn, Scourge Flame lists. They can push out so much damage in one turn. So just having that guidance, just being on the safe side, even wasting 1 health. He only healed for 4 because he was on 16. He would have healed 5. So just going on the safe side because he knows the longer the game goes, if I just survive that additional turn, I'm just gonna win.
All right, now we see Summerflame on to the final deck here. Amoeba on match point, still with this Rakoans and 3 chances to find the final victory. Looks like we're seeing a yellow rush come out from Summerflame. And yeah, Desert Explorer Desert, it's rush for sure.
The early hit with the salmon is super nice because, first of all, you get a Salus Crusader proc, you get Saggy, gains you 1 Faria, and you even cycle for that 1 additional card. So that's pretty much an amazing start.
We do see the Crusader here, potentially even just throwing it down, or if Summer Flame can afford to, having it get to a 5/5, potentially just will be enough. The biggest thing in this matchup will be that Summer Flame is able to get onto the orb and hopefully deal enough damage before Amoeba's really able to set up. Rakoan's, depending on the opening hand, does actually require quite a few lands to get rolling. And this Sagittarius is just going to be free all game for Summer Flame.
Yeah. He could, as you mentioned, I think the 4/4 is really risky because of Illusionist, and I feel like Summer should play around. Yeah, I cannot play 4/4. It's way too risky. You just lose the game if there's Illusionist, and that's big risk if you're down 2-0.
I don't really mind it coming down as a on that turn if you went for the full clear, because there was a line creating a Wind Soldier, creating a desert on exactly that space where the mountain now is. Wind Soldier and Soul Drain to kill off the shield mates as well as the Rakoan who spawns after the fact, and then you could get the 4/4 down. And that potentially potentially is a spot where Summer Flame then still has the tempo advantage, but now Amoeba's flooded the board. And now it's really difficult because anything Summer Flame plays down is now probably in a spot where it's going to get contested.
That's a good point you mention. I mean, you mentioned the Crusader is not contested as a 4/4 if there's no Rakoan on board. But unfortunately, these shield mates are just super good, because as soon as the 2/2 dies, a 1/1 spawns, and then there would be the Illusionist target.
Now you have a really good one, Illusionist, the 1/1, and it can go all the way over and kill the 5/4. Before you do that, make a Forest and Gift of the Rakoa on the shield mates. That'll put it up to, I believe it would be a 6/6 with that line, and it clears off the 4/4 Mistral Guide as well. And you're potentially looking at a spot when then the follow-up is a Frog Tosser on the Sagittarius, and that's just game.
That's a really nice line. Oh!
Ooh, okay.
I expected it to go for the clear, yeah.
So I mean, this line, if everything else is still the same, of going for a Forest and the Gift of the Rakoa, you take 5 damage more, but you stop the Sagittarius a turn earlier. But you could have just got to the Sagittarius next turn, so yeah, it's a little bit of an awkward one, but Amoeba just values clearing off that Sagittarius over the potential extra damage that can come out to the orb.
Doesn't even go for the Gift of Rakoa play. Maybe didn't see it? Maybe he wants the Gift of Rakoa just for face damage. That's also possible.
That was a mistake by Amoeba, and I think it was as well. I mean, we of course have the added benefit of seeing all of the cards in both players' hands, but this actually sets up a really good play as a response from Amoeba. He can push through with the Flash Wind, get up into a position and kill the Reveler. That allows the 5/4 to swing right through and blocks the land. You also have the Zealous Crusader coming down right after. Amoeba may have left a bit of an opening here.
That was completely unnecessary. I would have liked the Vermin just to go in between wells. He doesn't really need the 1 damage from the body, so he could have gone in between wells. But I mean, still, there are so many problems right now for Amoeba.
You've allowed your opponent, because you didn't go for the clear, to have all of their creatures zip off into positions you can now no longer contest them. Double Gift of Rakoa in hand is great for Amoeba in this spot, but none of his creatures are in the right positions to be able to take advantage of those buffs and get clears. And actually, with nothing being able to contest the 7/7 of the Zealous Crusader, I actually don't see a way where this gets cleared.
Oh.
And a potential misorder there as well, because they can't now step over.
Okay.
Emotes in unison from both players. And honestly, I think Summer Flame stole that game.
Yeah, he did. He did. I mean, that was a big throw from Amoeba, and things like these they can really go to your head. It was like, oh man, I had that game. To oh, it's only 2-1 if I lose this, and it's possible. Yellow, this is not Rush, so yellow doesn't too great against Rush. So then all of a sudden it's 2-2, and then you're thinking, oh my god.
Then it
And
really starts to play into the mental. As you're saying, at this stage, you say, okay, I made a mistake, bring it back, win this game. I still have the chance to take it. If you get a bad draw and your opponent gets what basically would be the nuts and steamrolls you, then you're really up against the wall because you're saying exactly what you just mentioned. It's now 2-2. This is getting a little dicey, but we'll have to see if Amoeba can close it out in game number 4 and still win the series.
just realized, why is that Vermin Baron's guy a beast? It's the weirdest beast.
I mean, it is a vermin. It is a rodent, so it makes sense that it's a beast. But I do know what you're saying there.
He's beast Vermin Baron's guy deck, maybe one day.
Vermin's been an interesting card in the ways that people have tried to make OTKs with it.
Yeah, definitely. Just really scary with Path of Paradise, Path to Paradise, things like that. Ooh. This game is gonna end quickly. Just gonna go either way. I think
Yeah,
Amoeba
I'm
not. Yeah.
really
Yeah.
interested by Amoeba going for this straight up the middle as well.
This is really neat. Oh, oh.
Oh, it's the god draw.
This stuff like that really change the pace of the game. Imagine this wasn't possible. The Sagi would clear. Summer would lose so much Faria over the next couple of turns. And yeah, this makes a big difference. That might just win in the game.
Yeah, definitely. Amoeba going for the early jump there with the Fanatic, get right onto the Sagittarius. Of course, ranged creatures. We don't see too much of them, but from time to time they do pop up. When they shoot at range, they don't take return damage, but when they're forced into those melee ranges, they actually are fairly easy to clear from your opponent's side. So Summerflame picking up that Soul Drain means exactly as you said, this allowed to survive much longer. Kind of a bit of a problem for Summerflame there that this demon has to come down so defensively because you're now set up with that self-burn damage over the next handful of turns. But we'll have to see if Amoeba continues to try to pressure up the middle, or if it's now going to be a reset and try to get some collection going, then make another push on the defensive.
We have to keep in mind, Amoeba's deck is not suited to go in between. So the longer the game draws out, the worse it gets for Amoeba if he doesn't gain control. Because like Summer has this tool with Sagi, Kalim's Prayer to get the Faria going, and creatures are cheaper and all that stuff. So going to collect at least once is gonna help Amoeba.
Yeah, exactly. Summerflame has a ton of ways to generate extra Faria just in the way that the deck functions, and Amoeba doesn't. So if we continue to just, bash creatures into each other right in the middle of the board, it is going to be Summerflame who eventually makes out better from that situation. So Amoeba really has to go for that reset.
Embrace the wild wind.
I can only compare a Faria now. Summer is on 7, Amoeba is on 5, and Amoeba just collected and got 3 Faria, so that's pretty crazy. Summer needs to Amoeba needs to come up with something to stop that. And again, if that Saggy died, Summer would not be on 7 Farrier right now.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's attacked for the past 2 or 3 turns that we've seen now, and on top of that has given access on Summerflame's side to the Kalim's Prayer as the follow-up every single turn. So that is 3 Faria generated from each of those turns just off the fact that that Soul Drain was a perfect clear.
True, yeah, exactly. Oh, not. Oh, more face hits. So he needs to make sure he gets the order right, so he can. The follower can also hit face. Yeah, exactly. Even consider playing the Saggy. Ah, he messed it up. Hit the Saggy as well, but chooses not to do it. He doesn't need to. He doesn't need more Faria than he
Yeah,
already
it
has.
got way more Faria than you could ever hope as a Yellow Rush player. Soul Drain discovered off the barter is not bad here for Amoeba. Being able to use that potentially in combination with the Campfire will allow the clear on Kalim.
This
And
does
again,
bring, yeah.
as you're saying there, Amoeba now to contest back into the middle of the board, not able to get any collection again. So every resource used has to go for the +1 off the Faria wheel here, and we see Amoeba sitting at +4 Faria to use at the start of next turn. The Summer Flame still has an absolute massive advantage.
Yeah, but Amoeba's he can't do much about this. It's just a rough matchup, and that early soul range is crippled him. And all of a sudden it's 2-2, and
Yeah, and we see it is based on what we've seen so far through the day, and we actually did see it from Amoeba earlier on in the semifinal. This is a Karasis creation deck, which means it is going to be fairly slow into the Yellow Rush of Summerflame. And out of nowhere, in what we thought was a couple mistakes in trade in game number 3 that cost Amoeba, he's now up against the wall. This is really difficult. Summerflame with a massive swing of momentum in game number 5.
it's not impossible. Amoeba's Karasis deck, there is not just one win condition. There are multiples. Just Amoeba needs to make sure he has a lot of swarms. Swarm creature. He cannot rely on Karasis because they're way too expensive. So just having a Recruiter, Water Elemental really helps him.
Yeah, Water
And
Elemental's a fantastic going up against Yellow Rush, in my opinion. You're able to get onto the wells and have the jump. So early on, Amoeba will be able to establish a fairly durable creature. It doesn't get immediately cleared with Soul Drain. It'll have to be something like a Wind Soldier. A creature that has extra movement, so you can potentially kite around attack angles and get onto the Sagittarius, as well as a jump for extra collection that, as we were talking about in the previous game, allows Amoeba to keep up with everything coming out from the Yellow Rush player. I'd be very surprised if we see Amoeba straight down response just because of the downside, like we saw in the previous game. But it is a potential option here because the Water Elemental has jump. It can get right up there right away.
Yeah, that's an interesting decision. I'm not sure about it because I think you would be fine if you just go side and you just play Recruiter and stuff like that.
Yeah,
All of a sudden
and we
you
see
make.
the immediate top deck punish again.
I mean, gotta kind of feel for Amoeba. He makes one mistake and just Yellow Rush just punishes that. And Yeah, with it. Yeah, I like that double neutral. He needs some way of collection, and that zero cost Cohen is perfect for that.
Yeah, the Rakoan setup here is really good. It forces your opponent to use something. We, of course, see the Flash Salmon in potentially could go over and just ping that 1-1 off, but then you are still leaving your Sagittarius open. Otherwise, we see the Flash Salmon potentially go to the orb, and that leaves the 1-1 alive. So it's a really nice play from Amoeba, basically to say to your opponent, I'm forcing you to make a decision here. And it really pays off now because it survives, and that collection is massive in this situation.
Needs to play the second recruiter as well, so yeah, perfect and +1. Yeah, very well done. He shouldn't. I don't think he plays it. He can wait one turn and build a land for it, and he again has another collector to collect on the bottom right. Well, the following turn.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of committed there just to guarantee that it blocks the line to the orb from the Sagittarius attacking. I mean, we can see what the difference is here in this game compared to the previous one. The Sagittarius hasn't been able to pop off and really hit the orb freely every single turn. So Summer Flame's sitting at one Faria, Amoeba actually leading in that regard because there hasn't been the collection coming out on Summer Flame's side from that Sagittarius stacking.
And all of, I mean, pretty neat turn from Summer, the Flash Wind, to get the range kill. That was kind of nice, but now gotta find a good way. It would be really good for him if he actually could cut off Summer's lands and to keep them away from the orb. I think he gotta prioritize that. He can always retreat. That demon is really sad back here.
I kind of wonder if he's going to go for an aggressive Laya instead. Yeah, that is what it's going to be. So doesn't cut off the lands like you were mentioning, which potentially could leave a bit of an opening here for Summerflame. Doesn't look like it is going to end up being that way.
Embrace the wild wind.
But now your Sagittarius is hemmed in. It's going to have the Shimmering Statue haunting place in a spot that it really doesn't want to be.
Wait, Doomsday? Wow. Doomsday could catch Summer off guard.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Doomsday coming out in a Carasius deck where you are potentially throwing a couple of them on board and then Doomsdaying, or Doomsdaying and then going 4th or 5th Carasius just to flood your opponent out. It's an interesting one because this deck just wants to throw a ton of creatures on board, and it doesn't initially logically make sense to then have a Doomsday which wipes everything anyway.
Yeah, but it's good with shield mates, and Adams and I were wondering why that was Mastermind stack, but why there is Balloonfish. So maybe Amoeba, just because of Doomsday, runs Balloonfish just to scoop up all of his creature, Doomsday, and all his creatures are alive. I can't imagine it.
All right, Amoeba able to get through that Rakoan attacking the orb there, basically just because it doesn't have anything else to do. It'll be interesting to see if he continues that pressure to the orb, or if it'll step over and attack the Sagittarius next turn. This does leave an opening where Kaleem can hit for that damage to the orb, and we potentially start to see the Sagittarius value collection.
I can keep the
Looks
follower.
Yeah, it looks like that's going to be it from Summerflame's side. So does save that little bit of fairy. You're looking for a bit bigger of a turn next turn. Not really able to do anything else that's impactful enough here. Does currently have a lot of pressure onto Amoeba's orb. Kaleem does represent a little bit of damage each turn, but the fact that the Shaitan Demon is in behind as well, you force your opponent then to have something defensive. We do see a great pickup on Amoeba's side with that Illusionist.
Was he gonna go? Oh, for a second I thought he was gonna go for the saggy kill. Yeah, this makes much more sense. Oh, I mean, Amoeba's gotta love his position now. He seems to be pulling off the win against Rush with the most unlikely deck that he from the three of them. And he seems to be doing it.
Yeah, I mean, Kaleem is still there and currently still has enough health that it's going to survive what Amoeba has on board. Potentially, you go for the Soul Drain on the Carassius and slow that timer. Can't really do anything more aggressive at this stage. Wind Soldiers are actually awful right now because every single one of Summerflame's deserts are right around the Shimmering Statue, so they can't move if they come down
you're
right away.
That's pretty rough, yeah. So, oh man, yeah, that sucks. Yeah, once you're in a position like that, you're wishing you wouldn't play Rush.
I'm trying to think back now what we've had so far. I think Kaleem has hit twice, and I think there was one Sagittarius attack, but that may not be correct. That may be from last game. So even the Zealous Crusaders, if and when Summerflame is able to find one, aren't quite big enough that they end up out-tempoing your opponent. And we see a great draw on Amoeba's side. That Aurora allows either of these defensive creatures to clear off Kaleem and probably end the game, because there will be no way that Summerflame can gain tempo back onto the board. The Rakoans will just be able to answer any creature that comes down.
That Aurora is probably nail in the coffin. I think Sagi has never hit face because Laya healed 2.
Would you like
He's
some
on 16
tea?
now. Kaleem hit twice.
Oh
they
my god,
don't-
Amoeba goes for the aggressive. Yeah, as you're saying it there, you are
Oh.
correct that it never did hit.
Maybe it has. No, you're right. It has. It did hit.
Oh yeah, we now
5/5
see
Crusader.
Zealous Crusader is a 5/5,
was
so there
wrong.
was
I was
3
wrong.
attacks to the orb.
Yeah, setting up lethal is always like, if you can do it, just try and do it. Because all of a sudden, Rush has to defend, and that's just not what this deck is good at. Yeah.
And again, a handful of times a Yellow Rush player would actually be able to just go dump Wind Soldiers into those defensive clears. In this situation, you can't because the Shimmering Statue. So really well played by Amoeba to get those early creatures up into aggressive positions. We saw a really good start with the Rakoan recruiters that allowed a decent body to push up aggressively into the Sagittarius and contest those early creatures from the Yellow Rush of Summerflame, as well as the free Rakoan back in the corner to collect, has been absolutely monumental, that extra collection, so that Amoeba can have the necessary Feria to continue up the board.
Exactly, and it's still there. He placed it on like turn 3 or 4. Now I believe it was, yeah, it might have been turn 3. And it's still there to collect.
All right, so Summerflame does create an extra desert away from the Shimmering Statue, dumps all of his resources essentially into clearing. Aurora's Creation, a phenomenal pickup from Amoeba that'll allow the duplicate of the Aurora buff onto the Rakoan Recruiter there, and Amoeba will close it out in what ended up being a very tense 3-2 victory, and Amoeba will secure third place.
It was probably closer than Amoeba would have liked, but it ended up. I think in general, Amoeba played better this series. I mean, Summer just got 2 wins with Rush, but he kind of got outplayed the first 2 games.
I think
So,
particularly that
yeah, I think
Rakoans versus the red-yellow burn was such an interesting match because there were so many micro decisions on both sides. And Amoeba ended up with a really good clear, a really impactful Runan's guidance early on in that game, and then eventually was just able to find the way to close big Tethra. But
I think you're right. You're right. The burn one that was so close. It could have gone either way, but there was that healing, and yeah, well played to Amoeba.
Okay, and that was our third place match. Thank you, Scorch and Zorny. Take a look at our brackets real quick. Swoop. Look at those things. Right here, Amoeba wins over Summer Flame, so Amoeba takes third place. He was third place last seasonal cup too, so consistent third, Amoeba. And Superb Lizard versus Mastermind is coming up, the grand finals. Mastermind I do not think has ever been in a grand finals of a seasonal cup before, so first for him. Lizard is used to being up there. We'll see what happens. We're going to set up that grand finals and be right back. This wait shall not be as long as the last one. Be right back.